Scorpene submarines for the Indian Navy, and of course, the joint co-production of engines for the advanced combat medium-range aircraft as well. So all of that will be the substance of this visit that Prime Minister has undertaken to France. He was, of course, the guest of honor at the Bastille Day celebrations earlier today, which, of course, is a rare honor for a visiting head of government. So India-France cooperation in its 25th year of the strategic partnership between Paris and Delhi, moving up to the next level. We heard both from President Macron of France as well as Prime Minister Modi. Let me go across to Abhishek, my colleague, who's joining us. Abhishek, what are the big takeaways from the press statements that we just heard?
So clearly, those defense deals are something that we were looking forward to. Now we know that Indian Defense Ministry has also said that these Rafale jets, which are supposed to come for INS Vikrant, are being considered to be bought from France. Apart from that, the two nations talk about the collaboration in new and emerging technologies, space collaboration, people-to-people exchanges. Recently we were having a conversation with the French ambassador in Delhi, and he said that about 10,000 students every year go to France, and they wish to see this number increased by another 10,000 in the next 5 years. So that gives us a kind of impression that what is the speed with which these two nations are trying to engage, with the people-to-people exchange sector in terms of education, export and import, businesses. Trade is another area where the two leaders have, expressed hope that it will be elevated. Currently, $12 billion is the level of bilateral trade between the two nations, and they have expressed their desire to increase this. And more investment in climate change, renewable energy transition is also that India is seeking from France, and it has been assured for a cooperation, and new French companies would be partnering with Indian companies in that area also.
Also, I just want to know, one of the key things that they've announced is this UPI collaboration between India and France. How may this necessarily work? Because the euro, which is the French currency, is shared by a dozen plus other countries as well in the European Union. So how may this work?
So clearly, this is the first time that a European country has given its way for Indian UPI system. Recently, we have seen when Prime Minister was traveling to USA, there was a keenness from the USA side to learn more about how does this whole UPI thing in India work at such a massive level. From a payment of rupees 10 to rupees 1 lakh rupees, this UPI system has been generating a lot of revenue and easiness, people friendliness. So there's a clear sense of eagerness to learn about the practices that India has been able to put in making this UPI mode of payment successful, and France happens to become the first country in Europe which has which is going to adopt this method, and this can be seen as a means to increase India's UPI payments presence in other countries as well. Because France happens to get a lot of Indian tourists there, and if those tourists or those students who are living in France currently or the diaspora, they are able to use this mode of payment successfully, probably this will be replicated and copied in other countries also, and that can bring in Indian fintech sector as a robust presenter of its capability to give the world another mode of payment, which is being keenly observed and which is being keenly, looking forward to have more collaboration with the Indian side, so that this kind of mode of payment can be used in European countries and USA and other part of the world as well.
Also, I want to get a quick word from you before I go to Sanjay Suri. Just in terms of, the context and the background around this visit, obviously one of the conversations is going to be around the Russia-Ukraine war and what it means for developing countries like India. How much would that be a factor, and where is that really going? Because France seems to have taken a slightly more nuanced position from, let's say, compared to a Britain or even a Germany for that matter. What is it that India can offer in this whole vexed situation?
So, Zaka, I think in the last couple of weeks, there has been some nuanced position that India is also taking. We have seen Indian Secretary of West going to Ukraine. That visit has followed. the Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister's visit to India earlier this year. So there is clearly some sense of understanding between India and Ukraine on the issue of, understanding the whole conflict and what can be a way forward to negotiate a peace, the formula that Ukrainian side has been teaching. Meanwhile, France has clearly tried to, de-hyphen itself from being a partner country or a vassal state of USA in this whole Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Okay.
We have seen French President traveling to China also. So even China happens to be an Indian adversary. But at the same time, France tries to play a very neutral and very interest-based, foreign policy at an international arena. And with that in mind, I think what Prime Minister Modi and French President Macron has been able to achieve will go a long way, especially in terms of technological transfer that the French President has assured and the other areas of collaboration that the two leaders have talked.
Okay, I want to get in a word from Sanjay Suri as well, my colleague who's there at the Elysee Palace right outside. He was there at the press conference, the joint press statements by both the Prime Minister and the President. Sanjay, walk us through what were the salient points. What is the big takeaway from the Prime Minister's visit to France?
Well, the takeaway is, and I'm not sure you can call it the big takeaway yet, is the announcement by the Prime Minister that they will be talking about the deals that we've been expecting a good deal to hear about. They will be talking about Rafales for the Indian Navy. They'll be talking about submarines. They'll be talking about engines for India's future defense aircraft needs. So the talks are going to get into these issues. And this is an announcement that these are matters that will be discussed. This stopped short of an announcement of an agreement. There still could be an agreement later in the day at the end of the talks that are beginning now. We haven't had that announcement yet, but a very clear indication that these are matters absolutely on top of the agenda. And the very fact that the Prime Minister said that these are agendas and these are issues that will be discussed does point to some imminent movement in that direction, even though we haven't a formal announcement as yet.
All right, Sanjay Suri, we'll leave it to that. Thank you very much for joining us. Sanjay is joining us live from outside the Elysee Palace, where just moments ago, the joint press statement by both Prime Minister Modi and President Macron of France just concluded. They will now go in for the bilaterals, after which, of course, there is the big dinner that is going to happen at the Louvre Museum. And, of course, that will be followed by fireworks at the Eiffel Tower, the skyline of Paris, which both of them will get to witness. Meanwhile, let's shift focus from Paris to what's happening here in the national capital. Delhi is sinking. It is seeing the kind of flooding and waterlogging which the national capital has not seen for the last almost 5 decades now. And this is not because of unprecedented rainfall. Remember, and this is where the distinction needs to be drawn, rains have pretty much stopped for the last 5 days or so, since early Tuesday. There hasn't been as much rain for the last 5 days here in Delhi and the wider national capital region, but large parts of the city are underwater. From the Red Fort to the Raj Ghat to the Ring Road, it is all completely submerged. And it's not because of the rain, and that's what I want to underline. It's not because of the rain, because the rain stopped 5 days ago. It is because the people who manage the water flow in and out of the Yamuna have not done a particularly good job of it. So who is to blame for the poor dam and water management? That's the question we're asking tonight on Brass Tacks, and we will get to the bottom of that in 1 second. But first, the story.
You can see in the visuals as well that still the residents can be seen leaving from this particular location. They have no other option but to leave from this particular site. They are moving towards either to their relatives or some other location. As you can see in the visuals, that a team of the NDRF has been deployed here. We have been given to understand that there is a nearby Gaushala, and this is how the rescue process is taking place.
Now it has been almost completely submerged underwater. So you can only imagine the kind of water levels which have increased over this point. This is the ring road basically, which actually goes towards the famous Margatwale Hanuman Mandir.
You can see the tractor that is bringing along more cattle from inside, because that is the major issue right now. So most of the area is rural area, most of the area is farmhouse area, and therefore number of cattle and animals was really high.
This is what Yamuna has become right now here in the national capital, how aggressive this river is right now. And in fact, we are reporting from the old bridge.
अश्वनी जी को मैंने कहा, ग्रुप पे लिखा, सीएस साहब भी थे उस पे सर, थोड़ी सी मदद हो जाती सर।
मैं और ये कहना चाहूँगा कि ये समय नहीं है कि हम किसी के ऊपर ब्लेम करें या कुछ और टिप्पणी करें।
Honorable CM has been continuously, not even a hour he might have slept. He has been talking, asking, calling everybody.
जितनी जरूरत होगी उतना NDRF की टीम यहाँ लगाई जाएगी। प्रधानमंत्री जी को गृह मंत्री जी का ऐसा निर्देश है।
As thousands of residents of these villages that have been flooded in Noida have already been rescued, the major challenges that lies ahead of before the police as well as civic authorities is to rescue the cattle and the animals that are still stuck inside. You can see police officials are here and administration is also here. What these animal activists are requesting to the administration is to provide them with enough logistics to make sure that all the animals that are stuck inside can be brought out. As you can see, NDRF teams are also there. They are bringing out people on boats. But right now, the administration and the police are saying that on priority they are evacuating people and residents of the village, while the animals who are stuck, efforts to rescue them are also currently underway.
We are currently reporting from civil lines area inside the Delhi government's officers' flat. This is the particular location where all the residents who were residing here for long, they have been asked to evacuate. A while back, the operation of the NDRF was just conducted at this particular place, and you can see that this is the water level which has reached out at this particular place. If I move any further, I will be, to a part will be drowned in water. So as of now, the rescue operation has been done. You can see in the visuals as well that still the residents can be seen leaving from this particular location. They have no other option but to leave from this particular site. They are moving towards either to their relatives or some other location from the national capital Delhi. So this is the situation which is now being seen from the national capital Delhi, that too one of the prominent area where many of the officers of the Delhi government, they reside at this particular place.
The point where I'm standing as of now is just 100 meters away from the Supreme Court, and there you see the condition. This is water approaching to the main road that leads to Supreme Court. Just 100 meters away from the outgate of Supreme Court, and this is the condition of the national capital, where in fact water has now started reaching Supreme Court. So, in fact, just few minutes back, we got an update that near ITO, CM Arvind Kejriwal would be visiting and will be taking the stock of the situation. But the fact of the matter is that at this point in time, people are facing a lot of difficulties as far as commuting is concerned, as far as their daily life is concerned, because this is, the peak hours, office time. And during this time, a lot of people travel from one place to another in the national capital, especially in this area where I'm standing as of now. This is central Delhi in Latian zone near Pragati Maidan. We have Supreme Court area, which is now, water has started covering the roads. And in fact, this is the kind of condition where traffic is on. In fact, traffic police is very much there, but water level is constantly rising. In fact, this is the kind of condition also because, drainage water is not finding its way to Yamuna, and Yamuna is already overflowing, and that is the reason why this water is actually backflowing into the areas. This area is one of the crucial areas. We have Supreme Court of India, the national property, in fact, national building. This is what Yamuna has become right now here in the national capital, how aggressive this river is right now. And in fact, we are reporting from the old bridge, the old iron bridge. In fact, today we are the only channel to actually get here, and in fact to get you these visuals which you're seeing on your screens. In fact, the water levels have risen so high. In fact, now what is happening here is that this entire area has been cordoned off by the police officials, and in fact you can see this entire area is emptied. In fact, it was emptied earlier, but in fact there were reports that some people were still getting inside this very old Loha Pul. But now this entire area has been cordoned off, and in fact some people were also telling about some rescue operation going on at that side of that very this Yamuna Pul. And in fact you can see in these visuals how high the levels are of these waters, and in fact just touching the floor of this very bridge. In case the water rises from here any further, the water will come upon this bridge. I'll show you the visual from other side as well. You can see how aggressive the river has become here. In fact, this wasn't yesterday, but now the water levels are actually staying constant, but still the condition is very grim.
Currently, if you see behind me, the location from where I am reporting is not the banks of Yamuna, but it's the flooded plains. I'm currently reporting from the relief camp that has been set up in Mayur Vihar, and the banks of Yamuna is at least a kilometer and a half away from here. People have been shifted from low-lying areas out here in the national capital to this relief camp, makeshift relief camp that has been set up. And if you could see the condition of this relief camp, this actually tells a story within itself of how miserable is the condition and how are people being forced to leave their homes and stay here just to save themselves from the flooded water of Yamuna. If I could just show you a bit around in this relief camp, this is the kind of condition that people are being forced to live in. The basic amenities are also not available over here. Makeshift tents have been made out here by the government, and several photo ops have already been done from this location, whereas several ministers and several MLAs have already reached out here, tried to speak to people, but yes, no one has come out here to help them and to make sure that the amenities that are provided to them is improved in any way or any manner, and that is the reason why people are being forced to live in such miserable conditions.
All right, so a series of reports from our reporters across the length and breadth of the national capital. But who is to blame? Like I said at the top of the show, it's been 5 days since the rain stopped in Delhi. So this is not a rain problem. This is more a water management problem. Who is to blame? Vineet Goenka, spokesperson of the BJP, joining us. Akshay Marathe, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Sudhir Krishna is former Secretary of Urban Development. And Dipinder Kaur is Director at the Water Program at the Centre for Science and Environment. Akshay Marathe, let me start with you first. One can understand if there is unprecedented rainfall and cities sort of come to their knees because of that. Delhi has not seen any substantial rain since Monday night, Tuesday morning. Today we're talking about Friday. And today the city is still flooded. Large parts of the Yamuna have overflown, whether it's Red Fort or Ring Road or Rajghat. I mean, surely, A, this could have been better anticipated and prepared for. And B, who is to be held accountable for this? Because it's not the rain. It's just bad dam and water management.
Zaka, you have asked a very important question, that at a time in Delhi when there is almost no rainfall for the last 5 days, when you don't have any localized source of waterlogging and flooding, why is it that the people of Delhi are still having to face a flood? And I think the answer to this question lies in simple common sense and simple understanding of how the geographic terrain of North India works. You have a situation where we are experiencing a climatic catastrophe in Himachal Pradesh and Haryana. We have experienced unprecedented rainfall all across North India. And all of that water eventually has to flow downstream. There is no other way it can flow. So if it rains in Himachal and Haryana, it will flow into Delhi, and from Delhi, it will flow into Uttar Pradesh. There is nothing that you or me can do about that. But what we can do is to use the resources at our command and try and divert the flow of water as much as possible. And what we suspect has happened, what the Aam Aadmi Party is saying may have happened, is that in Haryana, where you have the Hathni Kund barrage, from where there are 3 water outlets. One is the main flow of the river Yamuna that goes into Delhi. One is the flow that goes into Uttar Pradesh, which is through a canal. Okay. And another is another canal that also goes into Haryana. So of these 3 outlets, only the main flow of the river Yamuna has remained open for the last 4 days. And only after we raised an alarm that why aren't you using these 2 canals to divert the flow of the Yamuna, have they now opened up these 2 canals, and now the river water has subsided. You have seen the last 1 day or so, the levels of Yamuna have actually begun to slowly come down.
Okay.
So it is actually a very important question for all of us to look at.
Okay,
How
so
do we
let me
manage the
ask
flow of
Vinit
water when a
Goenka
natural
this, that
disaster
if
like
the
this
rains have
happens?
stopped for the last 5 days, the Aam Aadmi Party is alleging that the barrages are open only towards the Delhi side, not to the UP side. Is this a man-made crisis and a man-made disaster, Mr. Goenka?
Jaka, Ram Ram to you, to my co-panelists, and Ram Ram to all the viewers who are watching me right now. The real reason are three. One, the encroachment which has been done in the Yamuna post 2014-15 once the state government of Aam Aadmi Party has come. Your own channel and your own show had shown how UP government had to intervene and evacuate the squatters who, under the garb of taking the land, been promoted by the Aam Aadmi Party MLA near Okhla. So this can be seen by anybody who travels on DND. The bucket of the Yamuna has come down, it has become shallow because of multiple reasons. One, encroachment. Two, is the dumping of the waste trucks so that the trucks don't go to Gazipur. The plastic which has been dumped, controlled and been organized, deliberately been done. Number three is that 800 odd nalas which carry the sewage and the chemicals in the Yamuna which blocks the percolation and the entire thing. The capacity of the bucket of the Yamuna within Delhi has reduced to 1/3. You can check any geospatial data. Number two, on the people of Aam Aadmi Party who don't understand science. Hathni River, which is on 30.18 east and 77.35 north latitude, it has got more than 10 gates. If you understand basic things, when the water flows from upstream, if it carries a boulder, it comes down only. The canals are opened only when there is an irrigation system, and the canals cannot carry more than 9,000 cubic of water. The current capacity of the water which is traveling from upstream is not less than 110,000 liters. You understand? Not even 1% can be diverted. Number two, when the water is not been drawn by the farmer, which will not be drawn right now because there are rains, the tail end will come back to Yamuna. So this logic is flawed. If they basically would have understood basic 8th standard geography, they would have not come up with this argument. The problem is the corruption. Where is that 6,800? Let me complete, sir. Let me complete. Where is that 6,800 crore rupees which they have shown us to be spent on Yamuna cleaning for last 8 years? They have to give you this accounts of 6,800 crore rupees. Number three, they are into a habit of blaming it on somebody else. See, when there is a COVID, they say central government जो है oxygen लेके आएगा. If there is a pollution, they used to say Punjab and Haryana. Thankfully, Punjab has gone to them. Now the problem of pollution only comes from Haryana. The moment there was a power shortage, they said coal comes from central government. Central government has to provide for that. Drinking water shortage is there. Haryana will give it. If the drinking water is bad, then Haryana.
No, I get all of that. I get all of that. I need to ask you. I need to ask you this question. I need to ask you this question, Vinit Goenka. I need to ask you this question. Aam Aadmi Party is alleging, and you can respond to the Aam Aadmi Party. They are saying only the barrage towards Delhi is being opened. The barrage towards Uttar Pradesh is not being opened. Respond to that. This is their allegation. It's a big allegation.
I have the figures also, Zaka. If you
one sec. Your name is not Vinit Goenka. Let Vinit Goenka respond.
Thank you, Jaka, for asking this again. Two things. One, question has to be asked to the perpetrator of the crime. There should be, there should be an inquiry conducted and culpable homicide should be levied against them. A, because the 6,800 crore rupees which they have been showing on the papers have been totally gulped by them. A. B, Hathni particular barrages don't hold water. Sir, basic understanding of science, they don't hold water, they just divert the water. And I told you, it cannot divert more than 9,000 cubic. Please understand. And the current flow is 1,10,000 cubic. What is the percentage? Not even 1% can be diverted. So 99% will come down. And when there is a heavy flow, the boulders come down in it. No barrage captain will ever stop the water to flow. Number three, and for God's sake, you tell me, if I want to assume that the water will be diverted, it will come back from the tail end. I am giving you details which are there in this science. And if you understand geospatial, please take out the photograph and let us ask them, किसने यमुना में गंदगी फैलाई? So if you see two comparative photographs of 2014 February and now, you will understand the hectares and hectares of land where they have constructed buildings.
So
buildings by the MLAs of Aam Aadmi Party responsible for this. They have reduced the capacity.
You gave rampant permissions for farmhouses and buildings to come on the floodplains. You have not desilted the drains. to say that, Haryana is just releasing water into Delhi, that is just half the story. The other half of the story is what you should have done, and you've not done that. Therefore, Delhi is flooded today.
Zaka, let me answer point by point. Number one, when it comes to desilting of drains, I'm saying on record, you can send your reporters and check all the desilting of drains has been completed by the Aam Aadmi Party government. When it comes to the floodplains of the Yamuna, you very well know, Zaka, that land in Delhi is a central subject. So if you want to point fingers, you have to point fingers at the central government itself. So the BJP spokesperson has actually brought to light a very important issue, that there is land encroachment going on. The police and the DDA, both of which are directly run by the central government of the Bharatiya Janata Party, have been caught napping. Thank you, Mr. Goenka, for bringing it to national attention. Point number 3, when it comes to the question of the flow of Yamuna, I actually have the figures in front of me, Zaka. I have figures from 12th July, 12 p.m. It says 1,36,274 cusecs of water have been let through per hour. Similarly, in 2 days after we have been raising this alarm, now the figure has come down to 50,000 to 60,000 cusecs. So how is it that when they have been able to reduce the flow of water today, after Aam Aadmi Party has raised an alarm, why didn't they do the same 2 days ago when the clear warning signs were visible to everybody?
Okay, so let me ask Sudhir Krishna, former Secretary Urban Development in the Government of India, Dipinder Kapoor.
Can I revert back to him, Zaka, before you go to the next
Sudhir
panelist,
Krishna,
please?
Sudhir Krishna, please. Sudhir Krishna, Sudhir Krishna, the question that's being asked is, clearly this is a manual oversight, a manual error, if you will, that 5 days after the rains have stopped, Delhi still continues to flood. Yes, a lot of that water is from Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, from the plains flowing down into, from the hills flowing down into the plains. But surely that was a known variable. It's not an unknown variable. When Delhi received rain last week and through the weekend, Himachal was receiving unprecedented rain. This should have been anticipated. Why has that not happened is the question, and who needs to be held to account for that?
I think the situation today indicates that it is more of nature's warning than nature's fury. It is fury, no doubt, but it is in bigger measure, it is nature's warning, because rains have not been happening in the way they happened 5 days before, and it is not unexpected that again rains would come. And we can put the blame on climate change, but that does not absolve all of us from the responsibility of taking a lesson, drawing a lesson, and preparing for the future. What has happened in the past is a very big lesson. And the lesson is that water flow cannot be managed by any local authority. It has to be on scientific basis and on watershed basis. Watershed, Delhi does not itself constitute a watershed. Surrounding areas of Delhi and the NCT put together, these constitute watershed that would be defined by the National Capital Region Planning Board, NCR Planning Board. And therefore, the drainage plan has to be made for the watershed, first of all, and thereafter for Delhi. Because if you don't do that, that is one end of the story. If you don't do that, then water coming from outside Delhi and going outside Delhi, these will be ignored. And we will be only focusing on Delhi, which will be an inadequate analysis, number one. Number two, within Delhi, of course, watershed has to be broken into sub-watershed. We have to forget to an extent, to a good extent, about the administrative boundaries and focus more on the natural boundaries, natural drainage system, natural watershed, where the water comes down and flows. That is the watershed and the natural drainage system.
Okay, so let me ask Dipinder Kaur at the Center for Science and Environment. There were these pictures doing the rounds on Twitter yesterday, how the Yamuna now flooding the back gates of the Red Fort. It is only reclaiming what used to be the path of the river earlier. And then, of course, human beings are to be blamed for it, because there are encroachments and there are other buildings that have come up on the floodplains of the Yamuna, that now the river is taking back its territory, as it were. Now, the question that is being asked again and again is, who then should be held to account for this grave injustice that has happened to the people of Delhi?
See, I think instead of trying to identify who's to be blamed for, let's understand two factors which are responsible for the current situation. One is the fact that River Yamuna is dry when it enters Delhi for as long as 6 to 7 or 8 months in a year.
Okay.
So when it is entering Delhi from Hathni Kund is dry for 6, 7, 8 months. So where does it get water? It gets water from our sewage system, from Delhi. So the river again is flooded, has water when it is in Delhi after Wazirabad.
Okay.
So the fact is that the river runs dry. It is fed by our sewage and partially treated sewage, which also includes silt. So many experts have been saying that the river is silting up. Therefore, if the rains have not been so as big as the 1978 floods, the Hathni Kund hasn't released as much water as it did at that time.
Okay.
The river is overflowing and has reached 208.6 meter stage. So it's partly responsible that the siltage of the river has happened. And the second reason is the encroachment or the coverage of the floodplain. Now that has been going on for the past 40 years. It's not something of the past 5 or 10 or 20 years. So large parts of Delhi along the river, especially from ITO towards Okhla, have been encroached on both sides.
Okay.
Colonies have been built. Gita colony, unauthorized has been authorized. Several other colonies have formed. So the river, in a way, is funneling as it goes from ITO ahead. It doesn't have a way out. And naturally, where will it go? Then it will go back, it will rise up. That is what is happening.
No, so I want to go back to the political spokespersons, Vinit Goenka as well as Akshay Marathe. It's clear that unless you have some kind of a political understanding or a political consensus, Vinit Goenka, that the problem of the national capital is not going to get resolved, because Mr. Kejriwal is going to blame the central government, he's going to blame the Haryana government, saying that the barrage was opened when Delhi couldn't clearly handle it. And then on the other side, you are going to see the BJP attacking Mr. Kejriwal, saying he does not know how to run a government and that this whole waterlogging is his fault, etc. I'm concerned with a more fundamental point, and that is how the central government and the AAP government of the state can come together to deal with something as basic, as commonsensical as overflooding on the banks of the Yamuna, on the floodplains of the Yamuna.
So let me answer this, and before that, let me expose the Aam Aadmi spokesperson who said everything was cleared. Mr. Marathe may not be knowing about Delhi, so let me tell him. On the 9th of June 2023, in the house of MCD, which is currently been controlled by Aam Aadmi Party, on record the engineering department of MCD said, we will not be able to clean more than 55% of the drains. This is there on record. And now he's on your channel trying to tell that they have cleaned everything. Number two, 2064 kilometers of PWD controlled drains not been cleaned for last 6 years, not a single inch. Please show me a single geospatial data which is provided there. So not a single inch. So two. Number two, Mr. Marathe, you guys blame everybody. So you forgot that I said it was encroachment done by your people. And let me tell you, please open newspapers. Amanatullah Khan was been asked to answer it. And the land being encroached by him was demolished by UP government because it belonged to the UP irrigation department within Delhi. So sir, before you answer on the national TV, please keep your facts correct. And you know that I have my notes always along with me.
Okay, so Akshay Marathe, respond to that. There are low-lying areas,
no, don't speak in between. Don't speak in between. Don't speak in between. Lastly, Mr. Jaka.
Mr. Goenka, please yield.
Last thing.
No, one second. Please yield. Please yield. Let me go across to Akshay Marathe. Thank you very much. Akshay Marathe, please respond. There are large-scale farmhouses that have come up on the floodplains of the Yamuna. Who gave permission? Who gave permission to these houses to come up?
Zaka, 2 points. Number one.
And 9 June's report.
Let him respond. Thank you.
It's there.
on 4th of July, the Delhi Lieutenant Governor, Mr. V.K. Saxena, has come on record and he has invited the entire media and tom-tommed that he and his government, which is actually the Aam Aadmi Party government, has cleaned up the entire Yamuna. So when it comes to taking credit for cleaning the Yamuna, the Lieutenant Governor and the Bharatiya Janata Party are the first to say we have cleaned the Yamuna. Now when there is a catastrophe on the people of Delhi, all the BJP spokespersons can do is blame Arvind Kejriwal and attack Aam Aadmi Party. I want to ask them.
No, but Akshay, Yamuna doesn't come under the central government. Yamuna comes under you guys. What have you been doing in the run-up to the barrage being opened?
Zaka, can I finish my point?
No, I know, but
Anil
please answer my
the
question.
Haryana minister has been 1 second. Anil Vij, the Haryana minister, has had to take a boat to get to his house because even Haryana is flooded like Delhi. Even Noida, which comes in Uttar Pradesh under Yogi Adityanath, is also flooded. Is the BJP today saying that Arvind Kejriwal is responsible for flooding in Haryana and Uttar Pradesh also? No, because the BJP can not think of any commonsensical argument. So they want to rake up all kinds of false allegations against Arvind Kejriwal, but will not answer the singular question that when they knew that Delhi and Noida cannot take the flow of the Yamuna beyond a certain level, why did they let the Yamuna waters flow from Hathnikund barrage, which they could have easily diverted to
No, Akshay, it is a barrage. It's a small size dam. It cannot hold water beyond a certain level.
I'm not asking
I believe
why
it's
not
208 meters or so. If it cannot hold water, they will open up the sluice gates.
I'm talking about diversion. I'm not talking about holding the water, Zaka. Please understand. I'm not saying that Hathnikund can hold water, but they have two other outlets that they can divert the flow of water to, and it was not done. Ask him, why was it not done? He's saying only 7,000 cusecs can be let in through those outlets. Then why not those 7,000 cusecs of water should be allowed to go into UP and Haryana instead of Delhi?
Okay, we leave it at that. Again, we have no independent way of confirming that water is only coming to Delhi. It's not going to UP or to other parts. But we leave it at that. Like I said, the tragedy that the national capital is actually facing is it's not like it's raining right now. It's not like it's raining cats and dogs right now. It hasn't been raining for the last 5 days, and yet because of poor dam management, poor water management, the national capital and large parts of the national capital are underwater because the Yamuna has overflown. Hopefully, if it doesn't rain in the next couple of days and the sun comes out and there is enough pumps to sort of pump the water out, hopefully by Monday or so, we should get the situation back to normal. Meanwhile, the Indian Space Research Organization has launched its third lunar mission today, the Chandrayaan-3, from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. 16 minutes after liftoff, the propulsion module successfully separated from the rocket. It's now been injected into the desired orbit to begin its journey to the moon. The main goal of Chandrayaan-3 is to land the rover on the 23rd or the 24th of August successfully on the lunar surface. The new mission aims to demonstrate India's capability to safely land and explore the lunar surface. The spacecraft is expected to reach the moon's south pole as well as operate there for about 1 lunar day, which is approximately 14 Earth days.
A successful launch. What are the challenges for the next 3 or 4 weeks, sir, till August 23rd, which is a tentative?
You heard already what is going to happen further. Yeah. We are going to raise orbit from now to translunar injection condition, and that will happen over some 4 burn sequences, which will be very timed and controlled. And if everything goes well, on 1st of August, we will be leaving Earth and going towards Moon. It's called translunar injection. After that, it cannot come back. Then it will start a journey towards Moon, and that is the first step. After that, it will travel another 4 days to reach Moon. Then it will be captured on the Moon by an appropriate firing. If you don't fire that correct time, it will escape Moon also.
Yes. Yeah.
So then we will be reducing orbit in the next 3-4 burns to bring it up to 100 kilometers. And everything goes well, then we will be able to land on 23rd or 24th August on the Moon.
So the other aspect here is a lot of people are curious to know why ISRO has chosen this spot for soft landing, the one that you've tentatively chosen.
So it goes with many things. One, it has a spot where there is still illumination. There are still adjacent zones which are non-illuminated. Okay. So both are there. So if you want to do scientific experiments, you can go to the unilluminated zone and do some mineral studies, and illuminated zone is suitable for solar power generation so that our craft can live for at least 15 days. So this is the interest. So it is not close to the pole but slightly near to the pole to give some scientific value.
So I know you don't want to digress to any other project, but how important is this mission for Gaganyaan and other missions? Or you spoke about the launch vehicle and the capacity and the kind of features of it that will help you in Gaganyaan.
See, we are using LVM-3 for all these missions and systematically operating it to reach the Gaganyaan goal. See, you would have seen the last 3 launches were successful. Though they were not part of the Gaganyaan program, we have inducted many features which are part of the Gaganyaan program so as to give edge to that mission. So that ultimately when you go to Gaganyaan, we don't have to have an uncertain rocket.
Okay. Sir, final question on the shape equipment that you put there. People want to know what's the idea behind some equipment on a moon orbit looking at Earth, because all your other payloads are on the surface of Moon.
If you have to study Earth, you can very well study here. You don't have to go to Moon. But we are not looking at like that. We are looking at, suppose somebody looks at another planet. What is the type of a global structure of the radiation that you are receiving? From this, can you make a signature? So we are looking at a global signature that can distinguish between a living planet and a non-living planet.
You were there inside. Thoda experience so bataiye. Were you still the Neta, or did you suddenly become the passionate Indian who's seeing that rocket go up and say Jai Hind?
Absolutely. I think cutting across the sections. And for the first time, I have been associated with the Department of Space for almost 1 decade now. It was an amazing scene over there in the Satish Dhawan Space Center for one important reason, that I've never seen such a huge crowd of people over there. That is also significant of the fact that Prime Minister Modi has unlocked the gates of Sriharikota for the common public, and we had as much as, I think, not less than 1,000 media persons.
Wow.
1,000 media persons. Then one of them said there was a tweet from the Congress party saying that these things used to happen in their times also. I said, did you ever happen to be here? He said no. So I said that is the answer. That has actually led to the development of an ecosystem. When Prime Minister Modi opened it for private players, it also led to the involvement of the industry, the academia, the startups, the media, all of them pooling in their resources in whatever capacity they have, supplementing each other's efforts, each other's assets. And I think this is a huge bonanza which was seen happening there, and the beginning of a new approach and a new culture in the working of the ISRO and the space sector in India, which was earlier working in a kind of a wheel of secrecy and trying to keep itself away from the rest of the world, and in the process inadvertently depriving itself of the huge resource, whether it be the form of knowledge resource or the financial resource, and spending time in a financial crunch and not being able to give full play to their potentials. As you see those pictures of Sarabhai carrying the launcher vehicle on the carriage of his bicycle. So I think there's a huge change which was witnessed today.
Sir, the scientists also seem to be, not so serious. They also like a bit of banter and some fun. We saw Somnath ji, the mission director, also indulge in some fun while they were announcing and talking about it. That also brings across the human face, doesn't it? Jan Bhagidari in the true sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's precisely I'm saying. There's a change in the culture, work culture itself, because you see what had happened is that for the last 60, 70 years they were working in isolation. They would not move out, they would not let anybody come in. It was a taboo moving out, mixing with people. So they got to live in a different kind of a world. And the interpersonal, interactions and the interpersonal behaviors also take the kind of form that the environment that you live in. Now they are dealing with young startups, some bright young boys, girls from IITs and Science Institute. They are dealing with industry houses, both domestic and as well as overseas. They are dealing with academicians of all hues and colors. So that has also given them a huge lot of exposure. So it has enabled the growth on both sides. So I think it's a optimum pooling of all the assets that is behind, all the stakeholders have been brought together. So obviously, as you rightly mentioned, that fun might have been missing because they were not allowed to have fun. We try to improve upon even on the successful preceding mission. But this time, of course, besides that, some of the pitfalls which we thought should not have been there, but also taken care of. Some buffer effect was also there. And most significantly, what would make this Chandrayaan 3 apart from the other missions is that's going to land on the south polar area, where it will be a continuation of the finding that its predecessor Chandrayaan 1 brought, and which startled the world. It brought the evidence of H2O molecules, water molecules on the surface of the moon, which had not been discovered even by the countries which had landed on the moon.
Not just that, and Madhavan Nairji, I was speaking with him just before you joined, and he said that if we can figure out if there is enough, that can provide fuel for us to return, because the hydrogen can be isolated and we can look at that possibility going forward.
Here are 5 facts about Chandrayaan 3. Chandrayaan 3 is a continuation of India's previous lunar mission, Chandrayaan 2, which ended in failure and tears. The objective is to demonstrate India's capability of soft landing on the moon by delivering a lander and a rover to the lunar surface. During Chandrayaan 2, the lander crash-landed during descent due to a technical failure. India will be hoping to join an elite list of nations who have actually managed to land on the moon, that is the United States, erstwhile Soviet Union, and China. The actual launch vehicle Mark III is a 3-stage medium-lift launch vehicle. Christened as the Bahubali of rockets, it's the most powerful rocket ever developed by ISRO. This is what will be used to launch the Chandrayaan 3 spacecraft. LVM-3 consists of 2 solid fuel boosters and a liquid fuel core stage powering it. The solid fuel boosters provide the initial thrust, while the liquid fuel core stage provides the sustained thrust to propel the rocket into orbit. The spacecraft consists of 3 parts: the lander module, the propulsion module, and a rover. The integrated spacecraft weighs around 3,900 kgs. The main function of the propulsion module is to carry the lander module from launch vehicle injection till the final lunar 100-kilometer circular polar orbit and separate it. The lander will make a soft landing at a specific site on the moon and deploy the rover. The rover in turn will carry out chemical analysis of the lunar surface. The rover will be moving only within a limited range, that is, within the sight of the lander's cameras. All data collected by the rover will be transmitted first to the rover and then to the orbiter and then back to Earth. ISRO is targeting a soft landing sometime in the middle of August. Landing dates are determined based on the availability of sunlight at a particular landing spot. ISRO has designed the Chandrayaan 3 lander and rover to function for 14 Earth days, which amounts to 1 lunar day. After that, it will be a period of 14 Earth days of darkness at the landing site. So the rover and lander will not be able to recharge their batteries during that period. While there have been several moon landings, Chandrayaan 3 will be the first to land on the south pole of the moon. So a successful landing of Chandrayaan 3 on the moon's south pole will be a demonstration of our technical prowess and spacefaring ambitions. The lunar south pole has long held the interest of scientists and space experts because there is a possibility of presence of water there. The rocks and soil in this region could provide clues to the early solar system. This will be the first time that any tests would be conducted on the South Pole, so any data and conclusions drawn are set to be studied keenly across the world.
Conversations. They help us understand today to make way for a better tomorrow. Presenting a platform for policymakers and opinion leaders to engage in a meaningful conversation. with India's most trusted news team to decode the most relevant issues that matter. CNN News 18 Town Hall, Road to 2024 in New Delhi, July 17th.
The casinos make a lot of money for some states. They are taxed at a certain rate. Why not these online games too? It's been made to sound that this will be the death knell of the online gaming industry. It will also lead to a lot of job losses.
Point is that elections are happening, like you said, in every state. Why is this bloodshed only in Bengal? And you cannot say Trinamool Congress condemns it and we are sorry and I feel very bad. No, sir. Law and order is your responsibility. You failed.
The law has to operate by what is the prevailing situation on the ground. The law works for the people, not the other way around. So if the prevailing situation on the ground is that of peace, that necessarily has to have a bearing on the law.
हमारे अंतरिक्ष यान चंद्रयान 3 की चंद्रमा की यात्रा प्रारंभ हो चुकी है.
As the rocket is soaring through the clear skies, every second moving closer to the accomplishment of the most important milestone in its mission to moon. Every Indian witnessing the launch live is content with the feeling of watching history in the making.
चंद्रमा की सतह पर अपना छाप छोड़ने के लिए चंद्रयान 3 अपने मिशन को पूरा करने निकल चुका है. वर्तमान में दोनों S-200 स्टेप ऑन बूस्टर सामान निष्पादन करते हुए अपनी निर्दिष्ट कक्षा की ओर बढ़ रहे हैं.
The S-200 motors thrusting simultaneously, generating a peak thrust of close to 6,000 kilonewtons in vacuum. They are made of HTPB-based solid propellant. 204.5 tons in each strap-on. Close to 2 tons of propellant being burnt each second.
S-200 स्ट्रैप-ऑन बूस्टर्स का कुल प्रज्वलन काल 126 सेकंड का है और अभी घोषणा की गई L110 स्टेज का भी प्रज्वलन शुरू हो चुका है.
Apart from the strap-ons, the core stage has also commenced its operation. This stage, based on combination
200 stages are separated
of hypergolic earth storable liquid propellants UH-25 and N2O4. Now the S-200s have been separated.
घटनाक्रम के अनुसार यह यान इस यान से S-200 स्ट्रैप-ऑन बूस्टर्स को सफलतापूर्वक पृथक कर दिया गया है. यह काम सेपरेशन मोटर्स की मदद से किया जाता है. इसके बाद L110 तरल नोदक पर आधारित और विकास इंजन के साथ यह चरण सामान्य निष्पादन करता हुआ अपनी उद्दिष्ट कक्षा की ओर बढ़ रहा है. अभियान क्लोज लूप गाइडेंस के अंतर्गत है.
L110 stage performance normal.
The trajectory of launch vehicle is closely following the prediction.
Payload fairing separated.
जी हाँ, पेलोड फेयरिंग को पृथक कर दिया गया है यान से क्योंकि यान अब 114.8 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई प्राप्त कर चुका है. इस चरण का कुल प्रज्वलन काल 200 सेकेंड होता है और इस दौरान यह करीब 1600 किलो न्यूटन का प्रणोद उत्पन्न करता है.
We are 220 seconds past the launch time. Current altitude is 135 kilometers. In the 200 seconds of its operation, the L110 stage carries the rocket up to 175.5 kilometers altitude and imparts a relative velocity of 4.18 kilometers per second, that is 250 kilometers every minute.
L110 stage performance normal.
LVM-3 M4 रॉकेट का द्वितीय चरण पूर्णतः सामान्य निष्पादन करते हुए इस चरण में कुल 113 टन के तरल नोदक भरे जाते हैं। N2O4 तथा UH-25 अर्थ स्टोरेबल प्रोपेलेंट को ईंधन के रूप में प्रयोग किया जाता है इस चरण में।
Stage ignition is authorized.
अगला चरण C-25 का प्रज्वलन भावी है।
Plus 5 minutes.
L110 stage thrust cut off and separated to C-25 ignition command. 25 ignition confirmed.
That's a piece of really good news that the third stage has started its operation. The C-25 stage has been ignited.
जी हाँ, एक बहुत ही जटिल प्रक्रिया होती है क्रायो इंजन का इग्निशन और इसके प्रज्वलन के साथ ही तालियों की गड़गड़ाहट से गूंज उठा है मिशन नियंत्रण कक्ष। तृतीय चरण C-25 वर्तमान में प्रणोद उत्पन्न कर रहा है। पूर्णतः सामान्य, सभी तंत्र पूर्णतः सामान्य हैं।
118 kilonewtons thrust in vacuum is what the stage develops with its 28.6 tons propellant combination of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Present altitude is
performance normal.
तृतीय और यह अंतिम चरण है इस यान का C-25। यह क्रायो ईंधन पर आधारित चरण है जिसमें लिक्विड हाइड्रोजन, लिक्विड ऑक्सीजन का इस्तेमाल होता है। इसमें कुल 28 टन का क्रायो ईंधन।
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. The big story tonight comes from Paris. A grand march at the Champs-Élysées, France's highest honor for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, UPI in France, defense deals for India, a lot of color and symbolism. We bring you the details and the most comprehensive analysis. We also discuss Modi's unique concert-style diplomacy, one that makes people participate in policy making. And it's been a big day for India in more ways than one. The moon mission has been launched. We bring you a special report on Chandrayaan-3 and India's space ambitions. Also the question of Russian oil. Should Delhi continue buying it? We tell you why this is a pressing question now. Some good news from the world of cricket. The ICC is batting for pay parity. In Hollywood, actors are on strike, their first such protest in almost 60 years. And an Italian court verdict has triggered anger and memes. We'll tell you why. The headlines first. Putin says Prigozhin refused to cede command of the Wagner Group. Prigozhin had met the Russian president just days after his short-lived mutiny. This comes amid speculation over the fate of the group and its chief. US President Joe Biden says Prigozhin may have been poisoned. Russia agrees to extend the Black Sea grain deal. Turkish President Erdogan says Putin has agreed to allow the export of grain from Ukraine. The deal was to expire next week. Ukraine and Russia are among the world's leading grain exporters. Communication blackout in war-torn Sudan's capital. Internet and mobile phone connections disrupted for several hours in Khartoum. 3,000 people have been killed so far as intense battle continues between the army and the paramilitary. Indonesia says ASEAN cannot become a proxy for global rivalries. This comes as US-China tensions soar in the Asia-Pacific. The foreign ministers of Southeast Asian nations are meeting in Jakarta in a veiled reference to Beijing. The US vows unity with the bloc against quote-unquote coercion. Greece shuts down the Acropolis for a few hours amid a severe heat wave. The Acropolis in Athens is Greece's top tourist attraction. Greece is among many Mediterranean countries battling a severe heat wave. And drinking Diet Coke will not give you cancer. Earlier, the World Health Organization had said Diet Coke contains aspartame, a possible carcinogen. It is an artificial sweetener found in many everyday products. The WHO now says it is safe to consume in moderation. Day 2 of Prime Minister Modi's visit, there was a lot of pomp and pageantry, a majestic parade in the heart of Paris with the Indian Prime Minister as the guest of honor. Today is Bastille Day, the National Day of France, a bit like India's Republic Day. This day has a deep significance in French history. On July 14th, in the year 1789, protesters stormed a prison in Paris, the Bastille prison. And this marked the beginning of the French Revolution. It led to the birth of modern-day France. It's important to know this history to understand the significance of what happened today. The Bastille Day parade was held in the French capital today, and it had a distinctly Indian flavor. Indian planes in the air, Indian Rafales joining a fly-past with French jets, and an Indian tri-services contingent on the ground featuring 269 Indian troops marching with their French counterparts on the Champs-Élysées. If you're watching us from India, you know this tune. Sare jahan se acha Hindustan hamara. Better than the entire world is our India. Today's parade was a nod to the past too. It reminded the world of a forgotten story. Did you know that India contributed to European security? Indian soldiers fought the 2 world wars in Europe. In the First World War, nearly 1 million Indian soldiers participated. In the Second, about 2 million took part. They played a key role in securing Europe. The Punjab regiment from India fought both these wars. They were awarded 18 battle and theatre honours. This was in the First World War. In the second one, at least 30 honours. Today, troops from the same regiment marched in Paris. France is making a point to recognize their contributions. President Macron said, India is a giant in world history, a friend and a strategic partner with a decisive role to play in the future. He also gave a grand welcome to the Prime Minister of India. Prime Minister Modi arrived in Paris yesterday. There was a ceremonial welcome. The French Prime Minister received him at the airport. The French President then hosted him for a private dinner. Prime Minister Modi was presented the Grand Cross of the Legion of Honor. This is the highest civilian honor of France. There were gifts too. Again, they highlighted India's contributions to European security. One of the gifts was this photograph. It is from the early 1900s. It shows a European giving flowers to a Sikh officer. He was from the Indian Expeditionary Force. They were deployed in France during the First World War. The second gift was the Charlemagne chessmen. These are chess pieces. They were made in the 11th century. Prime Minister Modi was presented with a replica. Again, this is deeply symbolic. This gift represents the Indian origins of the game of chess and a long history of trade between India and Europe. Needless to say, this is a special day for the India-France relationship too, the 25th anniversary of strategic ties. To mark the occasion, Prime Minister Modi said India and France are looking at the future, the next 25 years of their bilateral relationship. So what are the plans for this future? Today we got some insight. India and France have prepared a roadmap. There is specific focus on defense ties. It remains the bedrock of the relationship. There are more